Hey guys, so this is going to be a May film wrap-up. I saw quite a few films in theaters this month, and I'm really excited to talk about all of them. And I also think I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple TV shows, and I usually don't watch a lot of TV shows, so these are some that I'm pretty excited about. But as for the movies, the first one I want to talk about is Godzilla. I saw Godzilla the weekend it came out, and I really loved it a lot. It was directed by Gareth Edwards and written by Max Borenstein, and I just really think they did a really amazing job with this movie. I don't necessarily remember a lot about the original Godzilla movies. I think I've seen some of them, and I know I've seen the one that came out in the 90s, which was freaking terrible, but this one was just so well done, at least in my opinion. I really liked it a lot. I really thought all of the acting was really well done. I really thought the Godzilla character was just really well done. It didn't show up a whole lot in the movie, which was a little bit surprising. It took a while for Godzilla to show up, and he doesn't necessarily come onto the screen all that much, but I really feel like that kind of made it more successful, because every time he did really take part in what was going on screen, it just made it that much better. The ending was freaking awesome. I loved everything about the last 30 minutes of the movie. The things Godzilla does is just freaking awesome. I loved everything about it. It was such a fun movie to watch. Something really weird about it, the previews for the movie kind of advertised it as really being about Bryan Cranston, and I think that kind of drew a lot of people into the movie a lot. But overall, the movie really didn't have much Bryan Cranston in it whatsoever. He just wasn't in it all that much at all. The main character really was Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was Bryan Cranston's son, who I don't even remember seeing in the previews. And I think Aaron Taylor Johnson did a really good job in the movie, although don't be fooled into thinking that Bryan Cranston is the main character. This movie was really following the sort of trend in movies now, where they make remakes that are really realistic and really gritty, and try to make them as much in the real world as it possibly can be, as opposed to the 90s Godzilla movie, which was following the trend of really campy, really trying to be funny remakes of movies and movie adaptations that just sometimes are very hit or miss, and that Godzilla movie was definitely very miss. But this one, I really enjoyed it a lot, and I just think it was really well made for a movie about a giant dinosaur. It was awesome. I also saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I also really enjoyed a lot. This reboot of the original Spider-Man movies, I still feel it came way too early, but I really do think Andrew Garfield makes a really good Peter Parker. He really does the character Peter Parker really well. Emma Stone, I feel is really good as Gwen Stacy. I really love the introduction of Dane DeHaan as Harry Osborn. Dane DeHaan has become one of my favorite actors. I really hope he's in a lot more stuff. If you've never seen the movie Chronicle, you really should. It is a great, pretty underrated movie in my opinion. I don't remember what year it came out. It's a very recent movie, but it's freaking amazing. But it's really good, and stars Dane DeHaan, and I think he did a really good job as Harry Osborn. It was definitely a total different take on the character than James Franco, and I think it worked really well. Jamie Foxx was really great. I mean, I've never read the Spider-Man comics, and I'm sure a lot of people have problems with some of the stuff going on, Jamie Foxx's Electro in general, but I really liked him as that character a lot. I really think he did really well. I really thought this was going to be really muddled, sort of the last Spider-Man movie in the original trilogy, Spider-Man 3, with all the different villains. But this one, it really the previews made it seem like there was going to be 3 villains, but there was really only 2 villains that it really focused on, and I think it was really successful in everything it tried to do. I think the writing was pretty good. Mark Webb's directing was really good. It was just a really nice sequel to The Amazing Spider-Man. It was really long. I guess it was kind of necessary for some of it to be the way it was, but overall it really did feel like it went on for a really long time. But like I said, it was really good. Not necessarily really amazing or anything, but definitely a good movie, definitely a good Spider-Man movie, definitely a good sequel to the original Amazing Spider-Man. One thing I had a huge problem with is the very last shot in the movie was shown in basically every single preview for the movie, and you don't do that. You don't show the very last shot in the movie in every single preview. In any preview, you don't show that. You don't ever do that. That is a bad idea. It completely takes away from the very last shot in the movie. The last shot in the movie would have been really cool to see as the last shot in the movie and not something we've all seen in every single preview. And you'll see what I mean when you watch the movie. But yeah, that's the only thing that really bugged me a lot about it. And then I saw X-Men Days of Future Past, which I loved a lot. I love the X-Men movies. The original 2 X-Men movies directed by Bryan Singer were amazing, and I really love X-Men First Class. X-Men The Last Stand was, like everybody knows, pretty freaking awful, and I just have never enjoyed the Wolverine movies, even though I love Hugh Jackman as Logan. I just can't stand the Wolverine movies. None of them are interesting to me at all. There's just no rewatchability in those movies to me at all. But the original 2 and then X-Men First Class were, the 3 of those are just really, really great. All of the original cast of the original X-Men movies and then the younger cast in X-Men First Class, they're just so perfect. I love James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender as young Charles Xavier and young Magneto. I love Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique, and I love Nicholas Hoult as Beast. And just combining the old cast with the new cast is just so awesome. I love that they did that. I love seeing Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy playing the same character in the same movie. It is freaking awesome. Even though the timeline between some of the things doesn't necessarily make sense for the 2 actors to be the same people. Like, how did James McAvoy age to be Patrick Stewart in such a short amount of time? But suspending your disbelief for that, the movie is just freaking awesome. Like I said, it combines the present/future X-Men that were in the original X-Men movies with the past X-Men from X-Men First Class, and the 2 went together really well. And the bridge that sort of connected all of them was, of course, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. All of the movies like to focus on him quite a bit, and it's understandable why. He's a really good Wolverine. He is Wolverine. There's really no one else I can imagine to ever play his character, and it's pretty obvious that he's going to keep playing that character for a very long time until they're done making X-Men movies, really. So we kind of follow Logan. He is kind of sent back in time using Kitty Pryde. Kitty Pryde, who was in the 3rd X-Men movie, she's the one played by Ellen Page. She can run through walls, but she also has the second power where she can kind of send people back in time. Usually it's only a few hours, but since Logan has the healing ability, she can send him way back in time without ripping his brain apart. He goes way back in time in order to stop these things called the Sentinels from basically destroying all mutants and destroying a whole lot of the world, because they start targeting normal human beings that have a very slight mutation in them. And it's just this all-out war between humans and mutants versus Sentinels, and it's really heartbreaking, the future-y parts of it, because we see a lot of deaths in that part of it. But then Logan goes back. He goes out to find Professor X, now James McAvoy, now very young. The professor is very down. He got shot in the spine, which means he can't walk anymore, but now he takes this serum to be able to get his walking back, but it also kind of keeps him from being able to use his powers, which is a huge hindrance, and he's really depressed. Doesn't teach other mutants anymore, and it's just overall really sad. And then there's Magneto, who is in jail, in a very, very high security jail. Basically, Logan has to bring the 2 of them together to stop Mystique from killing this guy who eventually goes on to create the Sentinels, because after she kills him, they get a bit of her DNA, which allows the Sentinel to adapt to basically any mutant power whatsoever. And it's just this huge thing that could lead to the end of the war in the future, and they want it all to be stopped right then in the past. And Logan basically has to take care of this. He has to bring Magneto and Charles Xavier together, has to bring the mutants together in order to stop this from happening. And it's just a whole lot of fun to watch. It is so good. The combination of everything is just really, really well done. All of the acting is amazing, especially James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. There's this new mutant character that we are introduced to named Quicksilver, who is literally just one of the greatest characters. He stole this show basically the entire time he was on screen. It was a little weird because he wasn't in the movie the entire movie, which is really weird because he could have helped them a lot during the entire movie, but he was really only there for a little while. I know he's going to be featured more later on though, which is great because he is a great character, and I really love the way they did him. Writing in this was fantastic, the direction was fantastic, everything was fantastic, the acting. I loved everything about this movie. I really wish there was a bit more of the future parts. This movie could have been longer. It was already over 2 hours, I think, but it definitely could have been even longer because there was a lot more they could have done with the future part of the movie. The future part of the movie kind of felt a little bit rushed, especially at the beginning. They kind of rushed to get into the past part. I know that it was necessary to kind of shorten the movie a little bit, but I do really think they could have spent more time in the future with the future versions of the characters, the future versions of all the mutants. They could have spent more time with some of the mutants that we've never seen before that only appear in the future, and I really hope they do spend a bit more time with them in future movies. Like I said, overall, I just really love this movie a lot. I loved everything about it, and it was definitely a really great entry into the X-Men series, and I can't wait to see what they do next, even though the ending leaves it very ambiguous for what's going to happen next in the series, but I really have a lot of faith in them to do well. Bryan Singer is directing the next X-Men movie, X-Men Apocalypse, and that is going to be really awesome. I know it's going to be awesome just because I think Bryan Singer has he does a lot of justice to the X-Men series, and I think he'll bring a lot to this next movie and to the series as a whole. And then I saw the movie Neighbors with Seth Rogen and Zac Efron and Dave Franco, and this movie is like the type of movie that is literally 100% completely unappealing to me in pretty much every single way possible. Partying, drinking, frat houses, drugs, sex, stupidity, overall ridiculousness, and despite all of that, it still managed to be really, really, really funny. I don't know what it is about Seth Rogen that I love pretty much every movie that he's in, and despite all of the vast amount of douchiness that was going on during this movie, it was a whole lot of fun to watch the stuff going on between Seth Rogen's character and Zac Efron's character. Basically, Seth Rogen and his wife move into this house, and then a frat moves into the house next to them. The frat is run by Zac Efron and Dave Franco, and there's just kind of like a war that happens between the two of them. It was surprisingly really, really good, really well shot, really well edited. There's a lot of really weird stuff in it, really weird editing and cinematography choices, and despite being one of those movies that's just extremely unappealing as a selection of life choices, as a movie it is really, really funny, and I really enjoyed watching it. I don't know what it is about movies like that, man. They appeal to the most ridiculous side of me that I just can't help but love it. I just can't help but laugh the entire time I'm watching it. So those are all the movies I wanted to talk about. There are a couple TV shows that I wanted to just mention real quick. There's this TV show called Fargo. It's based on the movie Fargo by the Coen brothers, and that is one of the best movies ever made, really. It is such a good movie, and this show is so freaking good. The show is kind of based on the movie, but not really. The events in the show take place after the events of the movie and don't really have anything to do with the events of the movie. It's just the general atmosphere and the locations and stuff, and the characters are very much influenced by the movie. Martin Freeman and Billy Bob Thornton are the two main characters in this movie, and they are great. Martin Freeman is really great at being hilariously awkward, and just the entire world craps on him constantly, and he's really good at portraying that. And Billy Bob Thornton is the main antagonist, and he is the gem in this movie. He is so good in this. He is so vastly awesome. Just steals the entire show. Everything that happens it mostly revolves around him and what he does, and it's great. I love that about it. I mean, it revolves around him and Martin Freeman's character. Billy Bob Thornton is so twisted and funny. This is a dark comedy, suspense, drama kind of TV show. I usually don't like TV shows like this, but there's just something about this that has really captured my attention a lot. I really love cinematography, all of the direction, all of the writing is fantastic. Acting from everybody is fantastic. There's this cop lady character that's really great, and this cop man character that's really great, and they have a really great partnership eventually that's really, really fun. Basically, Martin Freeman, like I said, is just, his character is crapped on a bunch, and then he meets Billy Bob Thornton's character, who is just basically someone that wants to see as much crap happen to people as possible. He's very manipulative and crazy and does a lot of violent things. Is kind of like a hitman, but just kind of does whatever he wants, done whatever he's feeling, and he meets Martin Freeman's character after that character has had a really bad day. They meet in the hospital. Martin Freeman's character has just been bullied by his high school bully and is in the hospital for a broken nose. He meets Billy Bob Thornton's character, and just the entire relationship between the two of them is amazing. And it leads Martin Freeman's character down this road of craziness, and it's just so much fun to watch, and I seriously recommend it to pretty much anyone that sounds interesting to, especially if you love the original Fargo movie. It's the atmosphere, the vibes, and the overall story are very reminiscent of that movie. And there's another show that I really love watching called Louis. It stars Louis C.K. This show has been on for 4 seasons. The 4th season just started in May. I love Louis C.K. I think he's like one of the smartest comedians out there. I love stand-up comedy a lot, and his show is just so beautifully made. It's equal parts like crude humor and just really great intelligent insight into a lot of really great life things. It completely revolves around him. The show is written, directed, and edited by Louis C.K. It's like really, like, it feels like it's his work of art. And it's just a show that's just really insightful, really fun to watch, and also just really gives you great insight into a lot of things. Really presents a lot of great things in funny ways, and I just think the combination of all of that is really amazing. And if you haven't watched any of that show yet, you should definitely watch the first 3 seasons. They're all on Netflix. Just watch them all. They're all really great. And I just wanted to say that the 4th season so far that just started is really great so far. It's very similar to the other seasons, but it's honestly even better than those seasons, I think. I just really, really like the way it's done, and I definitely recommend it to anybody that likes Louis C.K. or even if you don't like Louis C.K., it's not necessarily him. He's playing a character that's sort of based on himself, and the show is just really good, so I definitely suggest you give it a shot. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about, guys. Let me know if you have any opinions on anything that I talked about, and I will see you very soon with more. Thank you so much for watching.